He was once the king of an entire generation, a performer who could silence an entire stadium with just a closed-eye pause, a trembling note that came from deep within his chest. He mesmerized women and inspired men to become their best selves. But behind the glittering lights, flawless choreography, and prestigious awards, what was really there? There was a childhood without a father, controversial relationships, a bombshell lawsuit centered around a diagnosis he tried to keep hidden. And above all, there was the man who took an unknown kid named Justin Bieber and helped turn him into a global superstar. From the peak of Confessions, the best-selling R&B album of all time, to years of struggling under the weight of scandals and public scrutiny, Usher has lived a life that, if turned into a movie, could be called a love story, a tragedy, or an epic saga without an ending. Today, we're diving into all of it. No censorship, no sugarcoating, no secrets. This is the story of Usher Raymond IV. From center stage to the shadows of fame, from R&B icon to a warrior in his own life's battles. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Childhood and his path to music. Usher Raymond IV was born on October 14, 1978, in Dallas, Texas, but he was raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a small city where life wasn't easy for a young black boy dreaming of stardom. From an early age, Usher showed a remarkable talent for music. His mother, Janetta Patton, was the first to notice it and devoted herself entirely to helping her son chase his dream. When Usher was just 6, his father left the family. That absence left a deep void in his heart, one that would later give his music its emotional depth and raw vulnerability. As a child, Usher sang in his local church choir, where he first felt the pure joy of performing. The church wasn't just a place of worship, it was also a breeding ground for black musical talent. It was here that young Usher learned not just the technical side of singing, but also how to connect with people, how to tell a story, how to move a crowd with his voice. This became the foundation of the deeply expressive performance style that would eventually define him. Despite being a single mother, Janetta did everything she could to keep her son grounded. She even quit her job to become his full-time manager, taking him to talent shows, performances, and bigger cities to look for opportunities. One of the biggest turning points came in 1991 when Usher appeared on the national talent show Star Search. He didn't win, but his performance caught the eye of a talent scout from LaFace Records, the label co-founded by legendary producer L.A. Reid. At just 13 years old, Usher and his mother moved to Atlanta, the epicenter of Southern R&B and hip-hop at the time, to pursue his music career. Atlanta was full of opportunities, but also fiercely competitive. Still, Usher quickly stood out with his powerful vocals and maturity beyond his years. In 1993, at the age of 14, he signed with LaFace Records and released his self-titled debut album the following year. While Usher didn't become a massive commercial hit, it laid solid groundwork for his rising career. What made Usher special wasn't just his voice, it was his hunger to grow. He spent hours studying legends like Bobby Brown, Teddy Riley, and especially Michael Jackson, his biggest idol. He trained daily, not just vocally, but also in dancing and stage performance, constantly sharpening his ability to command an audience. It was clear from the start that he wasn't aiming to be just another R&B singer. He was striving for greatness. With support from L.A. Reid and Babyface, two of the most influential producers of the era, Usher began shaping his identity as a new generation R&B artist. Charming, stylish, and genuinely talented. Early tracks like Can You Get With It and Think of You didn't top the charts, but they earned him a loyal fan base, especially among young black audiences. Usher's childhood was filled with challenges. Growing up in a single-parent household, navigating the pressure of early fame, and facing the towering expectations of a mother who was both his emotional rock and his tough-as-nails manager. These things forged a complicated psyche. But they also taught him discipline and the importance of maintaining boundaries in an industry that devours the unprepared. Unlike many child stars who flame out early, Usher seemed to understand the path ahead. He didn't chase quick fame or take shortcuts. Instead, he patiently built his brand with skill and hard work. That's why, Even in the early days of his career, major industry figures saw him as an uncut diamond waiting to be polished. And sure enough, just a few years later, Usher would explode onto the scene with a level of success few could have predicted. Breakout success with My Way in the glorious 2000s. After a modest debut, Usher was ready to evolve. At just 18, he launched into his second album with a bold determination, not just to prove his talent, but to carve out a permanent place in contemporary music. That fire led to the release of My Way in 1997, a defining moment that transformed him from a promising newcomer into a full-blown R&B star. My Way wasn't just a commercial triumph. It sold over 7 million copies worldwide. It also cemented Usher's signature sound. With hits like You Make Me Wanna, Nice and Slow, and My Way, the album dominated radio and club playlists, becoming a defining soundtrack for a generation. Nice and Slow made history as Usher's first R&B ballad to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it marked him as an undeniable force in the industry. The track's sensual lyrics, smooth vocals, and heartfelt delivery captivated listeners and made Usher a name everyone knew. But the music was just one part of his rising star. Usher backed up his hits with electric performances, appearing on TV shows, award stages, and sold-out concerts with slick choreography, sharp fashion, and stage presence far beyond his years. It wasn't hard to see Michael Jackson's influence in the way he turned the stage into a canvas of movement, music, and emotion. Fans and critics alike began calling him the heir to the King of Pop, though Usher himself always stayed humble and cautious about such comparisons. After the explosion of My Way, Usher didn't rush into a follow-up. Instead, he spent time honing his craft, acting in films, experimenting with new sounds, and collaborating with elite producers like Jermaine Dupri, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis, and Rodney Jerkins. Working with these musical heavyweights expanded his sonic range and set the stage for his next leap forward. In 2001, he released 8701, an album named after two key years in his journey. 1987, when he began his music career, and 2001, the year of its release. 8701 reaffirmed Usher's place at the top of the R&B world, powered by hits like You Remind Me, You Got It Bad, and You Don't Have to Call. These tracks showed his evolution, not just as a singer, but as a storyteller. They were more mature, emotionally nuanced, and musically rich. The album earned Usher 2 Grammy Awards and solidified his image as the full package: voice, vision, and vulnerability. But the true cultural earthquake came in 2004 with the release of Confessions, an album that didn't just top charts, but defined an era. With over 20 million copies sold worldwide, Confessions became a global phenomenon. It wasn't just music, it was therapy, confession, and controversy rolled into one. Usher opened up about cheating, broken relationships, and deep regret, turning real-life heartbreak into art that struck chords with fans everywhere. The lead single, Yeah, featuring Lil Jon and Ludacris, was a club-shaking anthem that catapulted Usher into pop stratosphere. Its infectious energy and cutting-edge beat made it a global smash, and when followed by Burn and Confessions Part 2, Usher achieved a feat last accomplished by the Beatles: 3 back-to-back #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. The album was a masterclass in blending old-school R&B, modern hip-hop, and raw personal storytelling, raising the bar for every artist who came after. At his peak, Usher was more than a musician. He was a cultural icon, a fashion tastemaker, brand ambassador, red carpet favorite, and one of the most desired men on the planet. While he remained grounded in interviews, he had undeniably entered the ranks of living legends, and all before the age of 26. Usher wasn't just representing music. He was the face of an entire lifestyle built on passion, style, and expressive freedom. The journey from My Way to Confessions showcased Usher's relentless evolution. In just 7 years, he had grown from a gifted church singer into a global superstar. He wasn't discovered. He was built brick by brick with grit, discipline, and vision. And with Confessions, he didn't just ride the wave of R&B. He helped reshape it entirely. The peak of Confessions and the golden era. In 2004, when Usher dropped Confessions, it didn't just make waves, it sent shockwaves through the music world. The album wasn't merely a commercial success. It was a full-blown cultural event. It marked a golden age for R&B and launched Usher into a stratosphere where only a handful of artists could breathe. Confessions wasn't just a collection of catchy songs. It was an open diary of love, betrayal, regret, and redemption. And it struck a nerve with millions. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. At a moment when the industry was becoming increasingly polished, impersonal, and driven by glossy pop, fans were starving for something real. Usher delivered, unfiltered and unafraid. He shocked the public by admitting, through song, that he had cheated on a partner and gotten another woman pregnant. Listeners were left wondering, was this fiction or his actual life? That ambiguity fueled a media frenzy, making Confessions the most talked about album of the year. Tracks like Confessions Part 2, Burn, Caught Up, Seduction, and of course, didn't just dominate the charts, they inserted themselves into everyday life. Held the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 12 consecutive weeks, followed by Burn, giving Usher back-to-back chart toppers in a rare, almost untouchable streak. He became the first male R&B artist in nearly 2 decades to score 3 consecutive #1 singles, and one of the few to sell over 1 million albums in a single week, long before streaming made that feat nearly impossible. But Confessions was more than just numbers. It redefined vulnerability in male artistry. Usher wasn't afraid to bare his soul, to admit fault, or to get emotional, and fans respected that. It earned him not only trophies at the Grammys, American Music Awards, MTV VMAs, and Billboard Music Awards, but something more elusive, cultural credibility. He wasn't just a star. He was a voice for a generation that valued honesty over perfection. The album's impact spilled into every corner of Usher's career. Fashion labels, car companies, soda brands, even tech startups lined up to have him represent their products. He graced the covers of Rolling Stone, GQ, Vibe, and Time, embodying the new masculine ideal: successful, stylish, emotionally complex. He was no longer just a musician. He was a symbol. Outside of music, this golden era saw Usher stretch into new realms. He acted in films, appeared on major television programs, and even took his talents to Broadway. While not every project got rave reviews, each one showed his refusal to stay in one lane. He also founded his own record label and began mentoring young talent. Most notably, he signed a teenage YouTube sensation named Justin Bieber, an investment that would turn into one of the most successful artist launches of the decade. Through it all, Usher kept his public image carefully balanced. He was present at A-list parties and industry events, but he rarely found himself in serious scandals. The media respected him, fans adored him, and his peers admired him. He managed what few stars could, maintaining artistic integrity and personal dignity at the very top of the fame pyramid. But fame at this level comes with a heavy price. The higher the pedestal, the greater the pressure to stay flawless. By the time Usher moved into the next phase of his life, he wasn't just an entertainer. He was under a microscope, expected to innovate musically, evolve personally, and somehow stay immune to the chaos that comes with massive celebrity. Usher's golden era wouldn't last forever, but its impact is undeniable. Confessions remains one of the greatest R&B records ever made. And Usher, through talent, resilience, and emotional courage, secured his place in the canon of modern music. He wasn't just making hits. He was making history. Personal drama, marriage, lawsuits, and scandal. Beneath the polished surface of a global superstar, Usher's personal life was anything but smooth. While his music career soared, his private world was often turbulent, entangled in drama, lawsuits, and emotional storms that played out under the relentless glare of the media. From a heavily criticized marriage to headline-grabbing legal battles and deeply personal tragedies, Usher's life behind the scenes was far from glamorous. His first marriage to stylist Tamika Foster became one of the most controversial chapters of his life. The couple tied the knot in 2007 amid intense backlash from fans and the press alike. Tamika, 8 years older than Usher and a single mom of 3 from a previous relationship, was viewed with suspicion. Fans claimed she was controlling. The media questioned her motives. Even Usher's own mother, who had been his longtime manager, refused to attend the wedding, making her disapproval known publicly. The criticism wasn't just about age or personality. For many fans, the relationship felt like a betrayal of the clean-cut, heartthrob image they had grown to love. Still, Usher stood by Tamika. The couple had 2 sons together, and for a while, they presented a united front. But cracks soon formed. By 2009, just 2 years after the wedding, the marriage unraveled in a highly publicized divorce. What followed was a bitter custody battle that played out like a courtroom soap opera. Tamika accused Usher of drug use, cheating, and being an unfit father. Usher fired back, alleging she had deliberately kept him from seeing his children, emotionally harmed them, and abused her parental role. The case dragged on for nearly 2 years, filled with public allegations, courtroom tears, and footage of Usher breaking down while testifying about his struggle to see his kids. In a rare legal win for a celebrity father, Usher was ultimately awarded primary custody. It was a landmark decision in a legal system that often favors mothers. But the victory came at a steep emotional cost. In later interviews, Usher admitted that he lost much more than money or time. He lost trust, peace, and a sense of control over his life. The tension with Tamika continued long after the verdict, especially after the tragic death of her son from a previous relationship in a 2012 jet ski accident, which reopened old wounds and renewed media attention on their fractured history. Hoping for peace, Usher eventually remarried in 2015, this time to Grace Miguel, his longtime manager and close confidant. They kept things low-key, avoiding the spotlight and media circus that had surrounded his first marriage. The relationship seemed more stable, more mature. But even this chapter didn't last. By 2018, they had quietly split, announcing their separation with a joint statement that emphasized respect and amicability. No lawsuits, no drama, just a quiet end to what many considered an ideal celebrity marriage. Still, it underscored a recurring theme in Usher's life. No matter how successful he became, lasting romantic peace seemed elusive. But the most explosive and damaging scandal of Usher's personal life came in 2017. A string of lawsuits accused him of knowingly exposing sexual partners to herpes without informing them. At least 3 plaintiffs, 2 women and 1 man, claimed that Usher put their health at serious risk, demanding millions in damages. The story went viral almost instantly, dominating headlines and social media feeds. The once golden image of the smooth, charming R&B icon now faced a flood of criticism, ridicule, and disbelief. Usher denied many of the claims, and some cases were eventually settled out of court. Still, the damage was done. His public persona took a massive hit. The once flawless narrative of the gentleman entertainer was now complicated by doubt, controversy, and a sense of betrayal from fans who had idolized him for years. For a man known for controlling his brand and avoiding messy publicity, this was an especially brutal blow. And yet, Usher didn't fold. In interviews, he acknowledged that the darkest moments of his life often became his greatest teachers. The scandals didn't kill his passion for music. They became fuel. He channeled the heartbreak, regret, and chaos into new material, crafting songs that dealt with redemption, forgiveness, and emotional resilience. Despite the lawsuits, marital drama, and relentless media scrutiny, Usher never lost his will to fight. He didn't retreat or complain. He stood firm. He faced it all with a strange blend of calm and ferocity. Maybe that's what truly defines a legend. Not just the chart-topping hits or flawless dance moves, but the ability to rise after being knocked down again and again. Net worth, investments, and Usher's lifestyle. When people talk about Usher, they usually start with his legendary music career, but there's a whole other side to him that's just as impressive: Usher the businessman. Over the past 2 decades, while he was dominating stages around the world, Usher was also quietly building a financial empire. As of recent estimates, his net worth ranges between $180 million to $200 million, placing him among the wealthiest black artists in the world, on par with names like Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and Diddy. One of Usher's smartest and most surprising investments came in 2005, when he became a minority owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. At the time, he was still in his late 20s, but he put about $1 million into the team, a bold move into the world of professional sports. That investment paid off big time in 2016 when the Cavs, led by LeBron James, won the NBA championship. Even though his stake was relatively small, Usher's association with a major sports franchise elevated both his financial portfolio and his brand credibility. Outside of sports, Usher has shown a sharp eye for technology and media ventures. He's invested in several startups and digital platforms, particularly those geared toward black audiences and the future of music and social connection. While most of these deals remain private, insiders say he has a knack for spotting visionary founders and jumping in early. There have also been rumors of him participating in early-stage funding for Jay-Z's streaming service Tidal and Diddy's Revolt TV, though those have never been officially confirmed. In the music world, Usher co-founded the record label Raymond Braun Media Group, RBMG, with manager Scooter Braun. This is the company that discovered and signed a teenage Justin Bieber, back when the kid was just a viral YouTube sensation. Nobody could have predicted just how big Bieber would become, but RBMG's early bet turned into a goldmine. Thanks to Bieber's astronomical rise, the label quickly gained massive value, and Usher's reputation as a tastemaker and talent scout skyrocketed. He wasn't just making money from his own hits anymore. He had created a financial pipeline through the next generation. When it comes to real estate, Usher has owned multiple multi-million-dollar homes across the U.S., including luxury properties in Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Miami. One of his most well-known estates was in Roswell, Georgia, a sprawling mansion estimated at around $3 million. It featured a private recording studio, a pool, a home theater, and a massive garden. He's also flipped properties in Hollywood Hills and West Hollywood, often turning major profits. For Usher, real estate isn't just about living well, it's about long-term value creation. Usher's lifestyle is the perfect balance between high-end luxury and controlled refinement. He's a regular in designer fits from Tom Ford, Givenchy, Versace, and Balmain, but never comes off as flashy or over the top. His fashion sense has been called quiet luxury, elegant and expensive, but always tasteful. He's a staple at red carpet events like the Met Gala and Paris Fashion Week, and has starred in ad campaigns for several luxury brands. He's also a car enthusiast with a unique twist. Usher has owned a fleet of exotic vehicles: Ferrari 458 Italia, Porsche 911 Turbo, Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG, and a custom Tesla Model S with a one-of-a-kind interior. But he doesn't chase speed for its own sake. For him, each car symbolizes a chapter in his life, a reflection of his mindset at that moment. His garage is less about horsepower and more about storytelling. Another standout element of Usher's lifestyle is his dedication to wellness. As a performer who relies heavily on stamina and stage presence, he maintains a disciplined fitness routine that includes cardio, yoga, and clean eating. He's participated in public health campaigns and frequently supports charitable programs focused on education and healthcare for underprivileged communities. Whether it's hosting benefit concerts or funding youth outreach programs, Usher has long understood that legacy isn't just built on wealth, but also on impact. Overall, Usher's financial journey reveals a man who thinks long-term. He's leveraged his fame wisely, built diversified income streams, and never let success turn him reckless. In an industry where stars often burn out or go broke, Usher is a rare example of someone who's played the fame game smartly, blending artistry with entrepreneurship. He's not just rich, he's empowered. And for the generation coming up behind him, he's living proof that creative success and financial independence don't have to be separate goals. They can and should go hand in hand.